Yo, what's up? What's up? Welcome back to another episode of Proactive Pragmatism. On this Proactive Pragmatism, we're carrying on with our series Millennials Are. This next millennial is fit, fun, and captivating. Ladies and gentlemen, Corten Batease. Yo, Court.
How's it going?
What's going on? How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's a beautiful day in the PNW finally after a good 7 months of dark overcast. They don't lie about it here.
Okay.
You get about 5 sunny months and then the rest of it's all doom and gloom.
Wow. That's well, so what is, you said the PNW?
Mm-hmm.
So what is that?
Sorry about that. The Pacific Northwest. It encompasses Washington, Oregon, Northern California, Idaho, and Montana area. All in that specific area.
Okay. Because everybody has like acronyms and stuff, and I'm like, man, I wouldn't even know. I wouldn't be able to figure that out. And I've been stationed in Washington, so that was fun. But
how long were you here for?
Huh?
How long were you here for?
Not long. It was literally just training. It was when I was a cadet. This is like many years back. So now that we got you on the podcast, after all your flights and craziness and all that stuff that's going on, man, like all my friends, I feel like are like becoming like their own celebrities. Can you explain to the audience who Corten Batease is?
Yeah, so a little bit about me is I grew up in a small town, Southern Illinois, just like you did. And I realized I just wanted more for myself. The small town feel it's so easy to get stuck in the small town feel of wanting to stay put. But every day I walked out to my job, and I used to work 3 jobs at the time. I worked at Threat Effects at Silkworm down on the main strip in Murfreesboro, and McDonald's and Subway. And when I hit the intersection getting out of town, I just remember looking and being like, man, I gotta get out of here. So I went up to Chicago and I worked at the local gun shop for about a year for my friend who was pregnant. And that's when I started getting to my social media aspect of things. And I ran one of the largest groups on Facebook with 80,000 members in it. And I went from there to start working. Probably about a year and a half, 2 years later, I moved out here to work on the, player support campaign for Riot Games, where I started networking even more on the social sphere.
Okay. So you talk about Riot Games. So from the audience doesn't know, but you work in gaming support. So how did your love for video games, because in the crew that we always hung out with, like Brandon and all them, like you guys are always gaming. I was super lame. Like I'm like watching, like I'm about to get my butt whooped in this, and on the GameCube and stuff like that. So how did that transpire from the social media element? Were there people that were like, hey, you should get into gaming support, or how did that transition work for you?
The transition was easy because I had always been somebody, as a kid, I was a geek as is. I played Yu-Gi-Oh! I watched a lot of anime on Adult Swim in the morning. Video games was more of the kicker for me, just escape from reality. So transitioning over to the aspect of the Riot player support campaign was such an easy transition because we have this dream of becoming the most player-focused gaming company in the world. So adopting that at the start of their campaign, it really fired me up to want to create something with them that was unique for players like myself. I wanted to help elevate that. So I would say the transition was probably very simple, just due to the fact that their motto when I started just really resonated with me and the dream and vision that I had with them.
Okay. And what exactly is that motto?
The motto itself was, we drive to be the most player-focused gaming company in the world.
Okay. And so how are you able to bring that experience to your fellow gamers without, because obviously, like within any organization or any, you know, gaming community, there's kind of a hierarchy. You know, you see the guys that like they go on YouTube, they're YouTube famous, they start doing the Twitch streams and all that. So how do you kind of level the playing field for the average person, like the just basic gamer?
So for the basic gamer, it's all about being able to create a unique interaction with them, is what I like to call it. I had a special thing for it. We could talk about that later, but when you're talking to any gamer, you need to connect with them just like your regular person. So say for instance, do you have any games that you love?
Yeah, you know, I'm more of a sports game cat, you know.
So there you go. Let's take your sports game, any one of them. I would need to have knowledge about that product. I would want to connect with you on that product. I would want to be able to interact with you on every level of that game. So when you come to me or any of my support team members, I want to create something with you that leaves you smiling. If you're having an issue with something, or if you just want to shoot the shit about your game, then I want to create something that's special to you that makes you want to come back. And that was my goal with my team, is to create a unique experience that allowed players to come back, even if they were having a bad time, even if they just wanted to talk about changes in the game, or maybe the devs did something that made them a little angry, you know? I wanted to be there with them as I am a player helping a player.
Wow. Okay. That's fantastic. And so, wow. I mean, that's kind of powerful because like a few years ago, so how long have you been with the gaming company?
So I did move on to another project, but I was with the player support campaign for about 5 to 6 years.
Okay, 5 to 6 years. Wow. And I think that's interesting because when you talk about the gaming community in 5 to 6 years, that's quite a long time.
It is.
And how do you, so through the slog, how do you, so because I have this issue, right? Like I'm like, I will, you know, go super hard and then I kind of hit that like jet lag. Like there's this feeling of like monotony over and over and over again. And so how did you stay focused during that process?
So I started out as a basic agent for probably around 2 years, and I was the most driven on my team. Not to say my other teammates weren't amazing, but I saw an amazing opportunity to create a different space, because social media in itself for every company, I feel like, is a scary territory. If you say the wrong thing, then everyone can come at you from different angles.
Wow.
My vision for this team was to create special interactions all the way around by aligning with other teams and communicating issues that were taking place, or just generally keeping things fresh, creating memes, what's trending, what's going on in the internet space. It's important to know what's going on within your community at all times to create the best interactions with not only customers, but players as well. It's kind of a 2-for-1 deal if you look at it from every aspect. Pardon me, I gotta shut that down.
Oh, you're good, bro.
There we go. So keeping it fresh from 5 years, you know, my driving factor was that thing in my head that said no one had created the gold standard of social support for gaming companies, because everyone's afraid of the space. Like I told you, they don't know how to use it properly. So I never strayed away from that. Every meeting I had, every conversation I had with any of my leads, it was the same thing. I want to help you create a space that is better than any other space I have run into. And I did my studying. I checked out Blizzard. I checked out regular companies. I checked out Ubisoft, things like that. And I was like, what can I do different from them? What can we do different from them to build something way better?
Okay. So you added value, you know,
Yes.
and I think that's super important, because you have a lot of people who are on entrepreneurial ventures and things of that nature. Like they have all these massive goals and they want to sell something. They want to move a product. But one thing that they're always missing is, I'm like, how does this add value? I'm like, is this a conversation of value added, or is it leading with the dollar? Obviously, we got to get paid, but that passion fuels the value that you add.
That kind of to piggyback off you real quick there, that was the downside of it too.
Okay.
I had a problem. My biggest downfall is that I have a problem with seeing the money sign.
Ooh.
Mine is strictly led by passion. I don't do anything in this life without passion attached to it because it's not a life worth living.
Okay.
So there are spaces I can grow in when it comes to financial aspects of these type of things. And that was my downfall at this
Okay.
job. But when it comes to understanding and envisioning something, I don't believe the human experience should be to do it without passion.
That's real. That's real. And so what was the issue that you ran into? Because I also believe there's a lot of sales jobs that like I wanted to do well at, you know, and a lot of marketing jobs that I wanted to do well at, but I felt like they were pushing a product and a dollar sign over passion, over the actual customer. Like, why am I going to go into this church and try to sell them 3 copiers and they barely use the one that they have? You know, so what are you able to speak on what happened, like as far as the passion meeting the dollars?
You know, for me, I think I could speak on behalf of me. It's the fact that our space, since I told you at the beginning, the social sphere is a remarkably hard space for companies to navigate due to the fact that they need to collect data to find the value in it. How do you find the data and the financial gain of supporting players over the social space if you're not able to collect anything? You can collect player sentiment or customer sentiment about the space, but it's not making the same amount of an impact as somebody sending in a ticket, a support ticket, or doing live chat. The data there is tangible. You can fill out data sheets, but with social media, it's just relying on the numbers and the communication between you and the customer/player. So the downfall of me there is that I felt my team was being left behind consistently, and I had to work with other teams not knowing their spaces very well. While they were working in other spaces such as live chat and ticket spaces, I was completely in social, and they ran off of different data, which I didn't know what I was doing. So me not keeping up with that, I did have a bit of a downfall there.
Wow. Okay. So I think it's interesting because a lot of people, they focus on like the quantitative numbers. You touched on something right there, that quantitative numbers. But I've always been a proponent of qualitative data. The qualitative data is the lived experience. And living in that experience, we just saw this with Dogecoin. I don't know how you feel about crypto or if you invested or whatever, but I've got my thoughts on that. But literally a meme literally shot Doge to the moon. SNL, we're talking like social things that we never thought would go together, like dollar signs and freaking SNL and some comedy spoof. Now you got people, bro. It's people that we went to school with that they shouldn't have made it past 8th grade. And no shade, like I love them.
No, you're right.
But I'm like, you trying to push Dogecoin to me? Like, dog, I know you live with your mom on that little mattress. I ain't saying that there's anything wrong with it. My problem is like, man, it's hard. Social media is a hard space.
It's not only that, is like, if I could piggyback off of you, the people that you're talking about, it's the fact that these I don't want to say uneducated, the unknowledgeable that buy into things like Dogecoin like this, that are from the smaller areas that don't read up on the how to deal with cryptocurrency or how to play the stock markets. That also plays a huge role in it. Yes, it came from a meme and it's shooting up, and you know, Elon is talking about shooting up the first spacecraft to the moon. I'm not even sure what it is, just with cryptocurrency. But it's just like when these small town uninformed people read something online and they don't decide to dive in and educate themselves up to a further level to understand these situations, then that's where the problem comes in. And I feel like that's for most things, to be honest with you.
Well, and that's why social media is so powerful. I was reading a book about like ads and how they're popping up, and like if you don't have like some level of financial prudence, you will buy. As soon as we get off this podcast, somebody's gonna probably try to sell me a mic or a podcasting class. Like you just like you see it all the time. And And it's hard because you don't want to break people's heart. Like here we are talking delicately about human beings because they don't know what they don't know. And they
Exactly.
also don't learn from trends. It's like they forgot that, like, just a few years ago, we were in a recession. Like, we were in a financial crisis. And you have to be extremely simple to not understand that that's coming again. Like,
Yep.
the last year, all we've seen was free money. Flip this. The world is your oyster. And I'm like, that's why I started the podcast. Because I'm like, people got like, they would say stuff to me, and then I'd be like, yeah, that's not, nah, I probably wouldn't do that. And then, you know, I go down this rabbit hole in my soapbox, but I'm like, there are realistic ramifications to every decision that you make, especially in the social media world. And a lot of financial mistakes you really can't come back from.
No, exactly. And I think that also goes along the fact that I think we can both agree on the fact that depending on where you're at in the world, social media does target the uninformed and the unwilling to make bad decisions because they're always learning from us. And unfortunately, my mother is one of those people. My mother and my sister are one of those people that are ill-informed and get all their information from like, this was said on Facebook or this was said on Instagram. And I'm just like, did you fact check it? Did you check your resources? And people that don't bother to do that anymore. They forget, like, it's like the MySpace things. I bet you can remember, like, if you don't forward this and at 1 minute, your 20 friends are going to die or something. And it's just like, it just boils down to educating your fellow man and making sure that you fact check everything this day and age, because social media is a powerful weapon used against those that are ill-informed, uneducated, and don't have the willingness to go the extra mile to educate themselves. And it is sad as much as it is a little bit annoying, if I'm being frank.
Yeah, well, and it's applicable to the human condition because biologically we're lazy. Like, you know, like biologically we take the easiest route to get from point A to B. But the problem is life has gotten 10 times easier, but a lot of us are still programmed to do those same things, just in a different way. So they jump in and they're like, yeah, this is like, it's weird, like to see people that own businesses, like they had to have some type of drive, some type of intellect, right, to get into a lot of these positions. And they're like, oh yeah, they come in and, you know, take our guns and do this and that. And I'm like, all I can hear is social media. All I can hear is Facebook. Like, I'm like, did you think about what you just processed? And I'm like, I had to talk to my boss the other day. I'm like, boss, I know you're trying to sell the company. You know, you moving on to greener pastures. Like, we doing well and stuff like that. But like, I need you to put the social media down. Like, I need you to put Facebook down. Because you going back and forth and you might say something and he got a good heart. But you know how people from small towns are, right? They like to apply terminology to things that aren't supposed to be applied there. You know, I ain't gonna say, you know, some of the words, but you know where we grew up, you know?
Yes.
And so you see them going down a rabbit hole and they're locked into social media. But the algorithms are programmed to do that.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest part. Cause I'm like, even my mom, like, you know, I'm like, Mom, don't worry about that. Like, I had to tell my landlord, my past landlord, I had to tell her, like, no, I'm not going to war tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, when everything was happening, like, people don't realize how protected they are, because like every person, like, there are thousands of soldiers and troops, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Of all races, ethnicities, you know what I'm saying, orientations, things like that. And I'm like, there are a lot of us everywhere. Yeah. And so I'm like, if something was gonna go down, I would let you know. But if you see me not being worried, then there's probably nothing going on.
Yeah.
And so I kind of want to change gears here real quick, because you've inspired me a lot over the years. Like, when it came to just your fitness journey and how that went down. When did you become this beach body stud? Because I mean, Court, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was always a real skinny, you know, kid. Like, you were a little on the chubbier side, you know what I'm saying? Like, we were just all misfits that just happened to be solid best friends. Like, I couldn't have asked for a better friend group. Because if I didn't have something, y'all had something. Y'all always looked out for me. So what started? How long ago did this fitness journey start, and how did it start?
So I think that's a great question, and I appreciate it, man. Like honestly, it's been a long journey. It's honestly been around 11 years. I started my fitness journey back when I was 18, working out with my best friend Chuck at the time. He brought me to jujitsu classes. He brought me to a couple of them, and I enjoyed doing that with him off and on. I even joined for around 6 months to do that. I did some floor stuff and some kickboxing. But it really took off when I hit 26 and I left my last relationship with my ex. You know, it's a little bit of revenge body, but it's also a little bit of understanding your body. And I think that's a big thing for people, is that when they get into fitness, they want the mindset of, I'm going to get this immediately. And that's the biggest false claim in the world. And the world wants you to believe it. Social media again. They want you to believe that you can have it right away. But the biggest factor is your nutrition. Watching what you put in your body, really taking notice of how your body reacts to how many calories. You know, I don't do macros. I've paid a lot of attention to my body over the years. Right now, I'm on a strict eating diet of 6 meals a day right now. Wow. All low calorie. I probably wake up in the morning, hit the gym with a salmon Greek yogurt on rice cake, just as a pre-workout snack. Hit the gym for about an hour and a half, finish up with some HIIT cardio, get home, have a protein shake. I do use organic protein. It's just my preference, just because a lot of proteins out there have that, pardon my French, but shitty fillers, you know, they make you feel terrible. And so it's very, very smart if people do the research on what's going to make you feel good, and spending a little bit more money for an organic protein can ultimately help your gut. That also boils down to like me having quinoa, 4 chicken tenders, a thing of spinach, a handful of almonds and Greek yogurt. My favorite snacks are like protein cookies and things like that. So I don't dismiss like the sweets and things like that, but it's about paying attention to what your ultimate goal is and staying focused. A lot of people reach out to me and they're like, hey, I want to get on your fitness journey. What are you doing? And I'm like, well, do you really want this or not? It's always my first question, because if you can't answer in the first 10 seconds that you really want it, that means the journey is not for you. So I'll let anybody know, like, for your first month, cut sweets out entirely. If you can do 1 month without sweets and you get a habit down for yourself with your diet and your fitness, then you are ready to move on the next month to incorporate cheat meals back into your diet, so that way you have a healthy relationship with food.
Wow. That's so much discipline. Like, you just said so much, and like I don't know, like 30 seconds, because it's like people don't understand. I'm like, this is a lifestyle. Like, I'm like, I can put together all the plans that you want and all that stuff, but like, you have to live this. And like, the thing is like, I also don't want people doing it just because like they trying to get fit for a dress. I'm like, if this becomes a lifestyle, like, we have all the potential in the world, like literally to be the hottest old guys on the beach, because that's where everything is. But you had that pain point of the breakup. I don't know. I am a firm believer that a lot of times it takes that, you know what I'm saying, that issue, that problem, that pain. That pain is the biggest motivator. And I see a lot of people go off the side of the cliff with it and they try to do too much. And I'm like, get real with yourself. Who do you want to be? What do you want to do? And that's why I keep the pictures of when I was heavy. I keep them on social media, because I'm like, you always run to Facebook, you know, when you want some validation or something, you're like, one of the only validations that I need is that fat face that I saw that was putting down the food, you know? And I don't know if you experienced this, but one thing is when you take better care of yourself, other people take more care of you as well. They value you a lot more. And it sucks to say, but so many people don't value themselves and basically disrespect their bodies that like they're not getting the love that they really want.
No, you're absolutely right. And that falls in line with, and you know, that falls in line with self-love as well. It's one of the toughest things that our I think humanity has to deal with. You know, me and you are a living example of our rough past, you know, coming to terms that we didn't do anything wrong.
Man.
And loving ourselves is, you know, it's a hard battle to face. But once you accept that and leave the past back where it was and start living for yourself, that's when you can really start the growth within yourself and finding out what you want. It's not going to be easy, and there's no time limit on it. I'm so tired of people putting time limits on things that, you know, your growth is for you. It's your journey. Take the time to breathe, because if we only get one shot at this thing, you need to make right with you and stop worrying about everyone else.
Well, and then showing that love to yourself. When you talked about the cheat meals and stuff like that, like a lot of times what I'll do is I'll hold on my calories until later in the day. So like after we get off this podcast, I'm gonna get my routine pizza because it lasts for like 3 days. So now I got dinner for 3 days for cheap, you know what I'm saying, from Little Caesars. Shout out to Little Caesars. You know what I'm saying? But but during the day, you know, I got the veggies, I got the one chicken breast, you know what I'm saying? Those things.
Yeah.
Hit the gym. Like today I rode my bike to get to work. People look at me crazy, like, because people automatically assume when you're taking on some type of level of hardship, like that, like somehow you failed. And I'm like, nah, I just wanted to have a bike to get extra cardio exercise. I have a lovely car that I got, but I'm like, it also detaches you from things and it forces you to fall in love with yourself. And so one thing that I want to know is, how do you balance not gorging out on all the social media attention? Because bro, you done got more likes, you know what I'm saying? You get, hey, you got quite the, you know what I'm saying? When I said that captivation thing, you know what I'm saying, on social media, bro, for instance, years ago, there was a chick, we both know her, I ain't gonna shout out her name, but she was like, you know what? If he swung my way, like, she was like, I'd be all over that. He is the finest man I've ever seen. And I'm like, hold on, babe. What about me? You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, I'm like, that, but at the same time, the inner part of me, like, knowing where we came from, like, that's my dog. You know what I'm saying? Like, so how do you balance not gorging? Because being in the city, you know, I have friends, you know, who I've hung out with in Boys Town, you know, just all types of places in Chicago, right? And like, it's aggressive out there. Like, I've Ubered at some conventions, and like, they're like, oh yeah, hey daddy, what you doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, guys, dude, I'm telling you, they're vultures. Like, I'm like,
they're a different breed of person, that's for sure. So I think the best way to put this is, once again, it's a journey within ourselves to figure out. So I'll give you a little example of this. When I had first started my social media journey on Instagram, I started posting tons of body pictures because I looked amazing. I looked amazing for the first time in years. I put in the hard work and I wanted the attention. But after a while, and I think it was year before last, when I started getting into my photography and my hiking and my nature, I really started to realize that the things that matter to me are not the showering of attention from people. It is nice. Everyone wants validation in this life. But what mattered more to me was to people to see my work and start to understand who I am mentally, who I am growing into, the man that I want to become, the man that I envision going forward, because that person is just as amazing as the physical appearance of myself. I have grown a lot over the years, and, you know, just like anybody else has, but I want people to start seeing inward rather than outward, because we're not going to look like this forever.
no,
we're not. I wish we would, but you know, the knees in the back are already going, buddy.
Man, that's why I'm on the bike.
So it just boils down to enjoy it. Enjoy the validation. Post good pictures of yourself every now and then. Feel the validation. But if you're going to be on social media and you're going to try to network with people and communicate with people, and you really have that self-love that we talked about, don't stray away from that. Don't stray away from being, for me, I'm still that awkward kid from Murfreesboro. I still like say exactly what's on my mind around people. I do not give them a false aspect of who I am, because I don't want people seeing these fake versions of me.
Mhm.
I want them to see the real version of me. And if they like me, they like me. And if they don't, I mean, we're not here to please everybody. So I think that's the balance right there, is realizing, like, don't forget, if you want to, go out and get your validation. But if you have that self-love that we've talked about, let people see who you truly are for who you are.
That's real. Well, and that's powerful, because the self-love journey, like, that's clicked for me as well. Because
Mhm.
like, even like, in a dating, when I'm talking to different ladies, and I got, the different things going on, like, my conversations are different. Like,
Mhm.
I know a lot of ladies that would be considered 9s and 10s, but like mentally and like who they're being is like a 3.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I can't commit to that. You know what I'm saying? And I got to be honest with myself. I'm like, if you're chasing your passion and you got to validate other people, then where is that going to leave you later? Because
Mhm.
at the end of the day, when you go home, when you laying down and you ain't got no people around, at the bottom of all that is you.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
you, you know?
It's sad to say it. It's sad to say it, but it's the most realistic thing. We came into this world alone. We're
Mhm.
going to leave alone. We
And
may have loved ones around us, but at the end of the day, if you don't make good with yourself on whatever capacity this life is thrown at you, um, it's going to be a hard road. It's going to be a hard road for anyone.
that's
So,
real. That's real. So, if you had one word to describe the place you are in right now and who you are right now, what would that be?
growing, I think that's the best word. I
Okay.
turned 32 this year. I just got out of a 1.5 year relationship.
Mhm.
Um, and I see very vivid colors and bright lights and things that I want to accomplish, and I feel more empowered to do so than I have in such a long time. Our journey is, I don't feel like our journeys really start until we get past our 20s, because I feel like the 20s isn't just for fun and partying, but it's also starting to uh, think of yourself as like a jello mold, okay? And like, as a baby, you're just kind of like, you're still the powder form, but then someone pours in water and you're still jiggling around. And in the fridge, I feel like your 30s, you've been put in the fridge to solidify and figure
Wow.
out who you are and add up all the pieces. And if you want to add fruit to it, that's your thing, man, not mine. But my point is like, you're starting to solidify all the things you figured out about yourself if you spent the time to learn about your negative traits and your positive traits. And I think that's another thing that people don't look at enough, is you need to accept your negative traits as much as your positive traits, because they're there and you can change them, but you also
Mhm.
need to accept them as well if they're an ongoing thing for you.
Wow.
So I feel like that's where I'm at right now.
Okay.
That was an
Okay.
interesting analogy.
I think that, I mean, that's, I ain't never heard that one before.
I
But
made that up
but
right off.
I'm gonna have to steal that. I'm like, hey, kid, you like Jello. So right now you just dust. You about to go into your years, you about to firm up. You want to add some fruit, that's cool. But what I'm saying?
I dislike you so much for repeating that, because I'm just thinking like, ooh, that was rough.
Nah, it's
Terrible.
all good. I got it. It stuck like Jello. And so it's just one of those things where, like, it's powerful that you talked about the dark side, and the good and the bad, because you can get disillusioned in life
Mhm.
if you think that you're good all the time. Like, a lot of the limitations and boundaries I have set for my life are just because I know how bad can get. Because
Mhm.
we came from it. We came from darkness. It was, even though we were kids and having fun, a lot of the fun that we were trying to have was to get away from the darkness. You
You're
know,
you're right.
and people, they bury that for so long. And getting into nature, man, it after being deployed all last year, like in the desert, like, I look at trees totally different, bro. Like, I look at nature, just like, I'm on my bike and I'm like, how did I ever not really ride a bike?
Mhm.
Because the car, you can imitate, you can roll down the windows, sunroof, whatever. But like, there's something about being in nature and hearing that peace and that quiet and that, like, I always had a, I might have to come out there and check you out one of these days.
You're welcome,
I've
buddy.
always had that vision of like the evergreen trees and just sitting there. That was the most beautiful part about Fort Lewis was it was like a training camp, but we had to sleep outside. The only thing that did suck was the mosquitoes because they don't quit out there. But, but like the fact that we got to sleep underneath Mount Rainier and like just see the moon and the stars, like there was something about that grounded you, and it made you think no matter what you're going through today, there's something brighter on the other side, and there's so much earth and world that we have never seen. And I think that's I think that's what's so beautiful about your journey. Like I am so proud of you. Like I am just like, I get overjoyed when I see my friends and my people succeed. And that's what Millennials Are is all about. Because a couple years ago, I typed in on Google millennials, and all they had to say was negative stuff. Like, they really hate us out here, bro. Like, they really they're lazy, they're entitled, they don't work hard. I'm like, we just do it different, and we had to get it out the mud. Like, our parents have gone through recessions. We've gone through recessions. Like, the money isn't what it used to be, and we're finding more innovative ways to make it happen.
And we're thinkers. We're big thinkers. If anything, I don't think we're lazy at all. What I think we do is we bring things to the dark, from the shadows into the light, and we make that ugly thing that, excuse me, boomers have hidden away and didn't want us to see. They didn't want us to talk about it. They had, I'm not saying they had things easy, and I understand how much they had to work hard, but they don't like the idea of change. So they kept all these things in the shadow and just were like, you know what, they won't actually deal with this. We won't look at it. They won't, deal with this. And we come out and we just drag this card out and we're like, how long were you guys planning on keeping this stuff hidden from us?
Right.
We're going to find it.
Well, because social media developed while we were in it.
Yeah.
The generation behind us, they were born in it. Like, it happened, it landed on us. And now you got all these feelings and all these emotions that come out and all this dark stuff, and it needs to be analyzed, and we need to have real conversations. I just hope that our generation understands grace, and real conversations comes from not canceling everything. Because when you cancel people and you cancel these things, guess what? They go and start a clan.
I think
they also start different clubs in the background. They go hide underground, and then they peek their ugly head out when you're just trying to do everything else. What were you saying, brother?
No, I agree with you. I think the cancel culture also stops the growth aspect of all of us. If we're out here canceling everybody, this one is an example for me. When any election occurs, they sit there and they pull every negative thing over the past like 10 years about a candidate, which is fine. Have your feelings about it, but don't dismiss the human journey of growth for these people, and don't miss the human experience for anyone you cancel. Man. If they did something wrong, hold them accountable, but you also let them know, hey, you're only human. Your growth should not be stunted by me trying to cancel you. Here's me educating you. Please continue to grow and thrive.
Man, that's powerful. Well, I don't want to take too much of your time here, brother. Before we, wrap this up, are there any questions that you have for me or the audience or anybody for, ending this podcast?
No, I just want to thank you so much for bringing me on here, man. It's not only good to see you, but it's, it's good to catch up and have a little chat with you. It's a real honor to be here. You make sure to send me over this link too, so I can share it with everybody, because, everybody deserves to see this. And I want to look into more of your work as well too, man.
No, I appreciate it. And when I air the episode, I'll tag you, and you go have this Facebook cover and the header and all that cool stuff. Like, I try to send everybody, I try to set up everybody with a bang. But, starting a podcast is rough because, you own producer, you own graphics person, like, you doing all that stuff. And a lot of people, like, how it is. They'll watch a whole video and never like it, because I've been guilty of that too.
This is phenomenal. Like, your intro and everything, from the moment you like clicked on that, and I was just like, damn.
Hey, I appreciate it. I want to make you feel like a celebrity, because that's who you are in my heart, bro. So I appreciate you coming on the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, Corten Batease.
Take it easy. You stay safe, okay?
I appreciate you, bro.
Bye.